Late eating has been associated with metabolic dysregulation and obesity in adults. But what about children? They need more energy. Um, should we allow them to eat anytime they want? That's the topic of a recent research study that has been published in the journal Nutrients. It comes from a Spanish group, and it's looking at late eating in children. The researchers were analyzing data from almost 400 school-age children, 8 to 12 years, and more than 30% of them were overweight or obese. The researchers were looking at the timing of their meals, and the dinner timing, the median was at 9:07 p.m. And so the researchers took the ones who were eating the dinner before that time and labeled them as early dinner eaters, and those who were consuming their dinner afterwards, late dinner eaters. Now, both groups were consuming pretty much the same amount of energy and also had about the same amount of physical activity. But the midpoint of food intake, the difference between breakfast or the midpoint between breakfast and dinner, was sooner in the day for the early dinner eaters. Also, the time in bed was higher, about half an hour higher in the early dinner eating group. They had a different chronotype, and more evening types were reported in the late dinner evening group. Interestingly, the late dinner eating group was 2 times more likely to be overweight or obese compared with the early dinner eaters. They were consuming about the same amount of energy in the day. However, the early dinner eaters were eating more calories for breakfast. So this seems to be something to concentrate on, to give children more calories for breakfast. And interestingly, the fluctuations in body temperature, the amplitude was reduced in the late dinner eating group, which means that the late eating dinner late also disrupted the circadian rhythms of body temperature and also of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Again, the amplitude was reduced in the late dinner eating group. So to summarize the results, the late dinner eaters were 2 times more likely to be overweight or obese. They were also more likely to have higher waist circumference and increased inflammatory markers. And they had alterations in the daily patterns of body temperature and cortisol, suggesting that the circadian rhythms were disrupted. So I'd like to encourage you to give your kids a hearty breakfast and encourage them to finish eating earlier in the day to promote their metabolic health. And I would like to hear from you. What's your experience? How is it? How are you able to implement the knowledge? How have you been able to encourage your children to eat earlier in the day? Please share your experience below. Thank you.